in the shadows of the dark forest, hidden among the cragged rock along the veins of an old mountain, called by the name of Mount Seir. Haunted by wraiths not quite human and not quite beast, but perhaps something that lies in between. Not descended from the sons of Adam nor the sons of Noah, and rumored to be born of a forbidden union between fallen angels and the souls of men, who produced the Raphaim, the Zuzim, the Emins, and last but not least, the Horites, whose seed was mingled with men, spread wide upon the peaks of Mount Seir, and deep in the bowels of a hollow cave. You see, the Horites were the bride of Esau, who was born with a hairy red coat upon his naked skin, which forced him to seek out shelter upon the deep, long shadows of Mount Seir, where he would disappear into the darkness of the forest, far away from the reach of man, where he would dwell, bear young, hunt, and find his true love.
If you think about it geographically, Egypt is in the south. Over in the east, in Mesopotamia, was the ancient empire of Assyria. And that's where these reliefs are from, Assyria. Sandwiched in the middle of Assyria, which is now modern-day Iraq, and Egypt was Israel, the nation of Israel. So now they're kind of in the middle of a lot of controversy, and then they were too. Now, there was supposed to be something special about this nation of Israel. Does anyone know what that was? They were supposed to represent their God to the other nations of the world. Maybe we've heard the phrase children of Israel before, or something like that. Well, Sennacherib, meanwhile, is the king of Assyria in 700 BC. And just like great kings, he wants to grow his empire. He wants to conquer the nations around him. So that's exactly what he starts doing. He starts conquering nations around Assyria. And finally, he's very successful and he ends up at Israel. Now, he's excited about the idea of conquering Israel because not only does it mean that he's stronger than Israel as a nation, but it also means if he's able to conquer them, that he's stronger than Israel's God. So that was his goal. But how do you capture an ancient empire? Well, you have to take what city?
The capital.
The capital, exactly. And does anyone know what the capital of ancient Israel was?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, exactly. So Sennacherib's goal is to get Jerusalem, is to capture Jerusalem. Well, he begins his invasion, his conquest, and he takes 45 cities until he gets to Lachish, which is the final city to take on his way to Jerusalem. This is the last stop, and these reliefs tell the story or depict what happened at the Battle of Lachish. All right? So let's go and look and see what an ancient battle looks like, all right? If you look right here, you can see the Assyrian soldiers. These are the slingers with the sling and the stone, long-distance warfare. Then you see the rows of archers coming along for long distance. And as we move down the line, getting closer to the city of Lachish, we see some infantrymen with spears and shields coming on, advancing on the city, okay? And then we see siege ramps that have been built, and they're marching up siege ramps. Now, in ancient times, the way that they would protect cities was by building walls around it, right? And so the way to take a city that's got a wall around it is you have to get over the wall somehow, so they build these ramps. They probably weren't actually this steep, but they did it for the relief so that they could fit more on it. So you can see soldiers, Assyrians, invading, trying to come up the siege ramps, and meanwhile, torches and stones are being thrown down by the people from Lachish to try to defend the city. You see some other defenders and archers in this tower right here from Lachish. So this is a peek into an ancient battle scene. As good as it gets, high definition. Now let's look down here. You can come a little closer. Let's look down here. Somebody tell me what you see right here.
I see slaves.
Slaves, yeah, you see some people there. What we see is two soldiers, and they've got poles, and on top of those poles are dead people. Basically, they are human shish kebabs, because the Assyrians were notorious for their cruel practices. They wouldn't just kill you, because that's too humane. They would torture you first and make sure you die a slow, painful, and exemplary death to the rest of your comrades, because they specialized on intimidation. They did these cruel tactics in order to intimidate their enemies so that they would melt with fear as soon as they heard that the Assyrians were coming to town. I think I would be pretty scared too. Well, let's keep moving down the line. So they've gotten over the city walls, and now they've captured the city, and they're taking their plunder. They're taking their plunder. So we've got a cart and some soldiers right here, and they've got their candles. They've got some valuables that they're stealing from the city. They've got candlesticks, and they've got other valuable objects, but not only objects, they've got valuable human resources. Slaves. You can see a mother and a child being carted off into slavery, into exile right here in Lachish. All right, so if you want to come to the corner, we have a chair right here. But maybe some of you can see. Tell me what you see right here in this area. Anybody see? Tell me what's going on here. Yeah, you've got the soldiers are laying out two men, and if you look carefully at their legs, you see lines on their legs. Those are exposed muscles and tendons. Because like we said, the Assyrians wouldn't just kill you, they'd torture you first. So they've ripped off the flesh of these men to help them die in a more painful way, and also in order to intimidate their enemies. They were brutal. So let's continue down the line. We've got more slaves that are leaving the city. Now somebody tell me the difference between this guy and this guy. Whose side do you think this guy's on? The Assyrians. Yeah, the conquerors, the Assyrians. And whose side do you think this guy is on? The slave, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology. The people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology. The people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology.
Please, sorry, I have to go back a little bit. I wanted to add up to what Pastor Tatra said about our footprints in Israel. How do we know that we came from Israel? Now, if you go to the book of Nehemiah, I can't remember the chapter, it's verse 35, it talks about a man called Senna.
Senna, yes.
So I'm happy to tell you that if you had to go back to home to Israel, we left some marks on the way. When our parents went to Yemen, they built a city and named it Senna. It's there right today.
Wow.
It's called Senna. Now, if you go from Senna, they went to Mozambique. If you go to Mozambique, there's a city called Senna in Mozambique.
Interesting.
If you come here to Zimbabwe, the Great Zimbabwe, it was supposed to be called Senna 4, but only that we are a minority, and our voice was not audible enough to be heard.
Wow.
Then the other group which crossed the Limpopo River, South Africa, they built a city and called it Senna. Even today it's called Messina. It's on the way to South Africa. Now, if you go to Israel,
yes,
there's a place near the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
There's a place. It's a city which used to be occupied by the Levites.
Okay.
Now they were surrounded by the Moabites.
Okay.
That's where you get a place called Seda also. And on the old map of Israel, there is a place called Lemba. On the old map of Israel, there is a place called Lemba. On the old map of Israel, there is a place called Lemba. I have the map on me here.
Interesting.
There's a place called Lemba. It's there. Lemba. I have a map there.
All right. Shalom, shalom. Peace and blessings, family. Hopefully my audio is okay. How about in the chat, if you can hear me, if you can hear me via the audio, if you could please put a 1 in the chat. One in the chat, fam. So while we're doing that, so peace and blessings to everybody. Shalom, shalom, shalom. No, this is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas video. So if you hopped on here thinking this is going to be a Christmas video, you're sorely disappointed. No, ma'am, no, sir. But since we're hanging out, here on the I see the ones in the chat. Thank you, fam. Thank you. All right. So looks like we're good. Oh, so peace and blessings to everybody. Double honors to our chief elders at Rebirth, and double honors to our mores and our elders that's out there. So just want to give love to everybody that's jumping on board. So just want to do a quick video. I want to start probably doing a little bit. I want to start doing more of these because what's happening is that we're backing up on our videos. And if you were able to jump on the live, and I'm sorry, I didn't put out a whole lot of a forewarning that I was putting this out. But if you're able to catch the first part of this video, I did rerun the advertisement for the Black Germany video because that one's still in the works. However, it did end up pushing the pause button on that one because once that whole Kyrie stuff came out, all these attacks that came on Israel, we paused that one and we started working on another one. And in my opinion, fam, this will be one of the most important videos to not just Israelites but to blacks. I mean, to so-called African Americans here in the States and abroad. The whole diaspora. Like I said, most high willing, we'll get this out and you'll see what I'm talking about. And also, fam, we are working behind the scenes. We are putting some things together that will help Israel as a whole. And unfortunately, we don't. It's going to take time in order to get this announcement out. Like I said, it's going to take probably another 2 months, and it's just the nature of the beast as far as we're going through processes and steps and approvals and getting certifications and stuff like that. But I promise you, fam, when we announce this thing in about 1 month or 2 months, you will be excited about it. Israel as a whole will be excited about it because it's something that's sorely needed in the body of Israel today that does not exist. But praise the Most High, He's working through us to get this thing created. So, but more to come through that. I know I'm being cryptic, but I don't want to get ahead of the any announcements and stuff like that. So that being said, fam, let me just switch gears. I'm gonna go back to just recap what we saw, right? So the first video that we saw, the first video clip after the previews that we saw, had to do with Lakesh, right? Now you will see me talk about Lakesh often because Lakesh is one of those pieces of evidence, that was around during the time of the 600s or 700s, whatever time it came out. This is BC, right? This is BC. That it's a first-hand account of Israel. Not only is it just a first-hand account of Israel, it's a first-hand account of Judah, right? So the Assyrians who are attacking, Lakesh, the city of Lakesh, which is in the territory of Judah, right, on their way to sack Jerusalem, they're stopping off at the city of Lakesh and they are attacking it. They're laying siege to it. They actually conquer the city. They actually pillage the city. And just as that person in the he's actually at the British Museum, because that's where the Lakesh relief is today. If you actually open up a web browser and type in British Museum Lakesh relief, they actually have you can actually go through it online. I mean, they have some high definition pictures. So I really encourage anyone that's not familiar with the Lakesh relief to check it out. That's the British Museum Lakesh relief. And the importance of this, because it actually proves a couple of things, right? One, it proves that the Bible is real because Lakesh is mentioned in the Bible during the time of Hezekiah. So Hezekiah was the king of Judah at the time when Sennacherib, king of Assyria, was getting ready to come against Jerusalem. And he stops off at the city of Lakesh and he starts destroying the city of Lakesh. And, when you read in the Bible, this is where he sends messengers to, King Hezekiah telling him, hey, I'm coming. Kind of like Deion Sanders, I'm coming, right? And, Hezekiah goes before the Most High. He prays and the Most High intervenes on Israel's behalf. But one of the most important things that happens out of this is that once Assyria goes back home, they create this relief, this stone monument to commemorate, their victory. And of course, like as you heard at the top of this video, it depicts the entire siege, in chronological order. It also shows the people of Judah in high definition, as the tour guide said, high def, HD, high def. And as you can see, they have nappy, woolly hair. I mean, literally, these guys look like Kyrie Irving, like straight up. And that's why I tell people, it's like, if anyone's going to claim to be Judah, they have to look like the people on the Lakesh relief. You can't have any long hair. You can't look like Cesar Borgia, right? You have to look like the people that are on the walls in the city of Lakesh, right? And in particular, the people with beards. Because I have seen some naysayers will say things like, oh, well, they'll say, no, well, these people are the people of Judah on Lakesh. And of course, they'll point to somebody else that's in the picture that has their head covered so that you can't see their nappy, woolly hair. The problem with that is that the people that they normally point to don't have beards. So they're not Hebrews, right? So checkmate on that. But not only do they have the Lakesh relief, which shows, how the people of Israel, in particular, the people of Judah, looked that day, back in BC time, 600 BC, 700 BC. But they also have, the archaeological site, having a hard time pronouncing that word, where there's a mass grave site. So, so as the tour guide said, there were mass deaths, a lot of killing that occurred at that site. So guess what? There is a mass grave site at that site as well. And they've also run analysis on the skulls, on the remains at that archaeological site. And the results of that was that, hey, these people are, I quote, Egypto-Nubian, right? Egypto-Nubian, which means that those people are the phenotype of those people is synonymous or similar to the people that's in South Egypt, right? Close to Nubia, right? And you can't get no blacker than that. So that's why I say that the Lakesh relief poses a problem for so many people that try to make it seem as though Israel isn't a dark-skinned, melanated, African, nappy-headed, woolly-headed people. The Lakesh relief causes all kinds of issues with that. And then here come the Lemba, all right? So if you're not familiar with the Lemba's origin story, so the Lemba's origin story, I'm just going to give you a high level, and then we're going to read a little bit of it here shortly. Because I just, like I said, I'm going to try to keep this presentation short and sweet. I only have just a few slides here, but there's a part at the end that I've kind of been sitting on that I want to get out into the universe, into the space. Just so that you know that this information is out there. We do have a lot more information that we need to get out as well, especially when it comes to, we won't talk about I'll go ahead and spill the beans right now. So as far as or part of it, in Black Germany, we're going to talk about the area of the Caucasus. The people around there. There's some shocking things of that area that you will be surprised. We'll just leave it at that. But as far as the Lemba are concerned, the history of the Lemba, or the oral tradition of the Lemba, was that they were part of the people that were led away captive by Nebuchadnezzar to Babylon, right? So in the scriptures, we read about that, Babylon coming to Jerusalem, sacking Jerusalem. They took Jeconiah, which was the prince of Judah at the time, back to Babylon, along with the other princes and nobles and his countrymen. They took him over to Babylon, and of course they stayed over there. And then once, I think after 70 years or so, then they came back out of their captivity over to Jerusalem, and they rebuilt the walls and stuff like that. So that is the history or the oral tradition of the Lemba. But it doesn't stop there. So their oral history is that once they came back to Jerusalem, they were part of the of the guys that rebuilt the walls and rebuilt Jerusalem, right? And they were living there for a time. But then here comes Ezra. And so, of course, you have the book of Ezra, and we're going to read that as well. But Ezra then goes and talks about, hey, you guys have married these strange wives. We are sinning. You guys have to divorce and get rid of these strange wives so that we can get closer to the Most High, right? And turn back to the Most High. And according to the Lemba's oral tradition, this is where some of their brothers and sisters decided not to divorce their strange wives. Instead, they chose to leave, right? So what we're going to do is that we're going to take a look to find out where exactly did they leave. And yes, we can find out where exactly that they went to. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let me see if I can go over to the presentation. So this is my first time doing a live using StreamYard. So hopefully there won't be any hiccups. So, hey fam, can you see the PowerPoint presentation? Put a 1 in the chat if you can see the PowerPoint presentation, fam. Just gonna pause for a moment, give me something to drink. All right, I want to read through some of this with you. Okay, let's see if I can exit full screen. Okay, thank you, fam. All right, so it looks like we can see it. All right, so slide 1. So this is just going to kind of recap what I just talked about as far as the Lemba oral tradition. So it says the Lemba unequivocally believe that they are direct descendants of Jewish exiles who returned from Babylon. There is a record of the sons of Senna, 3,930. Whew. It's a lot of people, fam, and we'll talk about that. In the Old Testament, in Ezra 2nd chapter, verse 35, and Nehemiah 7th chapter 7, verse 38. And it says, Parfet has located a city in modern Yemen called Senna, which the Lemba believe is their ancestral home. All right. So if Tudor Parfet, if you guys, I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with Tudor Parfet, and he has confirmed a lot of this history that the Lemba of the Lemba oral tradition, using archaeology as well as DNA. But that's a story for another day. So for today, we're focusing on the location of the Lemba. That's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on the location of the Lemba. So we mentioned Nehemiah chapter 7. So let's go to Nehemiah chapter 7, and let's start at verse 6. And so this is just to get just to kind of set the scene as to what's happening in Nehemiah. So remember, the children of Judah were taken away captive by Nebuchadnezzar. And now that the time of the captivity is over, they're coming back to Jerusalem to rebuild the city, to rebuild the walls. And this is kind of like where Nehemiah chapter 7 picks up. So let's start at chapter 6. It says, these are the children of the province that went up out of the captivity, of those that had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away, and came again to Jerusalem and to Judah, everyone unto his city. All right. And then we're going to drop down to verse 38. And for this, I want to point out or highlight the number of the children of Senna. So you'll see it says the children of Senna, 3,930. So you can pretty much round it up to 4,000. And now the significance of that is that if you take the time to go through this list, if you look like, let's take for example the next few verses. Let's see, and just catch the numbers of these families. It says 973, or verse 40, 1,052. The next one, 1,247, right? And if you can go up, you can go down. But one of the things that you'll find out is that this family of Senna was the largest family that came out of captivity. The family of Senna, which is the family of the Lemba, are the largest family that came out of captivity. Now, fam, I always invite you to check my math on that. So if you ever get a chance, go and check out, this verse of, Nehemiah 7 verse, and just kind of read the whole thing, and just take a look at the number of the Lemba, or of these families that's coming out, and you'll see that Senna was the largest family coming out. And sure enough, this is where the Lemba come from. So let's keep going here. So let's go to Ezra chapter 9. Now, this is starting to get into when, Ezra, he's realizing that there's a sin that's occurring because, the children of Judah, children of Benjamin, the Levites, they're taking these strange wives and they're marrying people that they shouldn't. And so he wants to address it because it's sin in the camp. And there's sin in the camp. Forgive me, I'm kind of looking over at the chat. But there's sin in the camp, and he wants to take care of it or address it. So let's take a look at Ezra chapter 9. Let's start at verse 1. And it says, "Now when these things were done, the princes came to me saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations. Even the Canaanites and the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites." Verse 2, "For they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes, and rulers have been chief in this trespass." So basically, they're saying the princes and the rulers were the worst offenders. So they were the ones that were really marrying, these foreign, strange wives, right? That had to be divorced. And according to the Lemba, this is when their forefathers decided to pull up the stakes from the tents, throw up the deuces, and they was like, we can't do that. We're out. So the Lemba leave. They kind of fade off into history. We don't really, we don't see them after this, right? Or at least we thought so. That's what we thought. However, this is where we find the Lemba. So between the Old Testament and the New Testament, the intertestamental period, right? This is when the Apocrypha, the books of the Apocrypha take place, right? And during that time is the time of the Maccabees, right? If you guys are Marvel fans like I am, and in Marvel, of course, you had the Civil War, right? And so just like in Marvel, in Judah had a civil war, and it was basically the Greeks against the Jews. This is why when you get over to the New Testament, it says there's neither Jew nor Greek. Essentially, they're referring back to this civil war that just occurred. It was a major civil war where thousands of people were killed or died on each side, right? This was a major thing that occurred that, unfortunately, most Christian churches don't talk about. But during this time, it was the time of the Maccabees. So you can see on your screen, I pulled this up. This is from the Encyclopedia Britannica. And it says Maccabees, also spelled Maccabees. It says, a priestly family of Jews who organized a successful rebellion against the Seleucid ruler Antiochus IV and reconsecrated the defiled temple of Jerusalem. So this is kind of where you have the Feast of Dedication come from, right? Where the temple, so the temple at the time in Jerusalem, they were sacrificing pagan stuff in there, swine's flesh, swine's blood at the temple. They even created or built up a gymnasium of all things, over right. I think it's like right next to the temple. So Judas Maccabees, they come in and they cleanse the temple. They tear down all the pagan stuff and they rededicate the temple, right? And so that's where you get the Feast of Dedication, which you also see take place in, you see reference to it by Hamashiach or the Messiah, over in the New Testament as well. But so during the time of the Maccabees, this is when and where we can find the Lemba in Israel, right? So let's see if we can find the Lemba in Israel. And for that, we're going to read a couple of books here. So this book, you can see I kind of cut off the top part of the book, but it says, the Prophet Isaiah by Albert Barnes. And as I keep going, let's read about it. It says, Moab after the exile. And it says, after the exile, intimate connections took place between the Jews, and the Moabites by marriage. And it says Ezra, I believe that's 9, Nehemiah, and I believe that's kind of read those Roman numbers. I think that's 13. And it says these marriages, however, were dissolved by Ezra. We just read Ezra. It says, as being in his view contrary to the laws of Moses. In the time, in the time of the Maccabees, little mention is made of them. And it says, but Josephus, listen, fam, it says, mentions them in the history of Alexander Jannaeus. So Alexander Jannaeus is when and where you can find the Lemba. You can find the Lemba on maps if you look hard enough during the time of Alexander Jannaeus, right? Because remember, so the Lemba left Jerusalem, and then after some time they moved down south through Yemen. But what we're finding out is that when they left Jerusalem, they didn't necessarily leave the area, so to speak, immediately. They kind of moved away, hung out for a little bit, close enough to the city of Jerusalem so that they could benefit from the protection. But then when things got a little heated, then they left. And we know that the Lemba left, of course, before the Messiah shows up, right? And unfortunately, that's why, we do find a lot of our Lemba brothers and sisters don't believe in Messiah, which makes sense because they weren't there when he was there. By the time the Messiah came on the scene, the Lemba were long gone. But coming back to our topic at hand, it says, when during the time of Alexander Jannaeus, and remember, this is Josephus talking, right? The historian Josephus. It says Heshbon and Naba, and it says Lemba, and Ornus, and I'm going to mess up some of these names, Elithon and Zara, and it says cities of Moab are mentioned as being in that time in the possession of the Jews, or in the possession of Judah. So during the time of Alexander Jannaeus, the city of Lemba was in the possession of the Jews. Let's read about why this city is in the possession of the Jews. All right, so go to the next page. And so for that, let's pull up the works of Josephus, where it says the antiquity of the Jews. All right, book 8. So the antiquity of the Jews, book 8. This is from Josephus. And let's see, it says, let's go down to number 4. You can see it highlighted there on the screen. It says, now at this time, the Jews were in possession of the following cities that had belonged to the Syrians, Idumeans, and Phoenicians. And it's going to give you a bunch of names of locations and cities, which I'm not going to read, but you're going to see the Lemba, probably 3 lines down. And you'll see Medeba as right next to Lemba. And literally on the map, you'll see Medeba. Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Next to Lemba. So that's a good way to find out where Lemba is. Find Medeba, right? So let's keep going. This is just another volume or version of Flavius Josephus' works, but you can see it says the same thing. It says, now at this time the Jews were in possession of the following cities and had belonged to the Syrians, Idumeans, Phoenicians, right? Just saying the exact same thing. It's just kind of put it in there for emphasis. It says Josephus gives geographical descriptions of Judea, because at this time, the borders of Judea changed. Because remember, Judea was being conquered. They were being conquered. They were being ruled over. So the borders, changed greatly during that time, and which we'll take a look at a quick map here just to give you an idea. So this is what we're going to take a look at is just a map during the time of John Hyrcanus. So during the time of the Maccabees, and you can see, the first thing we wanted to start off is just by showing you the legend on the map. And I highlighted number 3 because we're going to find number 3 on this map. So during the time of John Hyrcanus, it says 134 to 104 BC. Let's take a look at the territory he conquered. So remember, I don't know if you remember or not, but at the beginning of this broadcast, when we were listening to the Lemba elder, and shout out to Moray elder Cohen Hamadishi, he was key in sharing this information. And so what Cohen Hamadishi said is that he said close to the Salt Sea or Dead Sea, there is the city of Lemba. There is the city of Lemba. And so this is what Moray was talking about. So off to the left, you'll see it says the Salt Sea, which is, AKA the Dead Sea. And then you'll see Lemba off to the left. And you'll see a dotted line around Lemba to kind of show you the territory at the time. But it's changing because this is during the time of the Maccabees. And during the time of the Maccabees, you have John Hyrcanus. He's going out and he's reconquering territory for Judah. And excuse me. And what you'll see is that I have if you can locate the Salt Sea or the Dead Sea, right, kind of in the middle, off to the left, off to the right. And then off to the right of that, you'll see a highlighted number 3. And then you'll see Medeba, right? See that I'm struggling to pronounce. But you'll see Medeba, right? This is where you can find Lemba. This is where Lemba was located. And as you see, where it says 3, so remember, John Hyrcanus, he retook this territory. So during the time of the Maccabees, John Hyrcanus literally goes through Lemba. He literally goes through the city of Lemba. And you see all the way down to, you'll see number 5 down here. That's when additional conquests occurred. But one of the first things that John Hyrcanus did, he went to Medeba and Lemba. But let's take a look. I'm going to show you a map. And this is just another version of what we just saw. And you can see one of the things I don't show here are the borders of the tribes, right? So, just know that off to the left, for the most part, where it says Judea, that's where the territory of Judah was. But actually, where it says Mishor, Mount Nebo, Medeba, the plains of Moab, that's one thing I think we should do a lesson about, the plains of Moab versus the country of Moab, which is to the south, because I think people get confused about those two things, but we'll save that for another day. But coming back to where it says Mishor, well, the significance about this territory is that this is literally the territory of Reuben. Like, this is where Reuben's territory was on the right side of the Dead Sea. And so Medeba would be in Reuben's territory. But let's keep going because we want to find Lemba on our map. And I know this is one of those blurry maps, so don't try to adjust your eyes. No, it's the copy. And it's not one of those Bigfoot pictures where we can't really get a clear picture of the map. We always use like blurry images. No, we're not going to do that. So here on our next map, we're going to check out Lemba. So I just wanted to show you. I wanted to capture the legend, of this map on the top left hand corner, just so that you can see where it says Philadelphia and it says city not conquered by Janaeus. But this is during the time of Janaeus, right? Because remember, if you want to find the Lemba, go to the time of Janaeus and look to the right of the Red/Dead Sea. And if you look all the way down at the bottom right on this map, you'll see Medeba and you'll see Lemba. The way I keep it straight, fam, is Lemba is usually between two cities. It's between Medeba and it's between Macareus. Right. So that's where Lemba was. And let me zoom in a little bit just so that you can see it better. And remember, this is the territory that John Hyrcanus conquered. He retook this area for Judah. So when the Lemba tell you that they are from the territory of Judah, or they tell you that they're from the territory of Israel, this is what they're talking about, fam. This is what they're talking about. And I did plan on throwing some DNA stuff in here, and I was talking to shout out to Pastor Kelly that's out there, but I did plan on throwing some DNA report in here, but they ended up changing the report between December the 7th to today to actually have a different result set on their webpage, so it doesn't necessarily show Reuben and show how our DNA matches over in that area, because I thought that was a powerful connection piece. But I did reach out to the owner of the DNA site to see, if he could put his up. I talked to him. He said he did an update that changed some stuff around. I was like, can you put it back? So anyway, but yeah, if we get that bit of information back, fam, we'll share that via the community page or something like that. But just know, fam, that we do have DNA matches, or a match over in this area where it says Lemba, right? And also we do see some DNA matches in My True Ancestry, and it shows up via, I think it's like some sort of Moabite match on our list, on our DNA results as well. But we're not gonna, like I said, we're not gonna touch on that right now. I just wanted to show you where Lemba is located. And this is another map. It's to the right of the Dead Sea during the time of John Hyrcanus, during the time of the Maccabees, right? And Alexander Jannaeus. And that's when and where you can find the Lemba. So hopefully, you can understand where the Lemba come from, and just know that when they say that they come from the area, territory of Judah, they're not just saying it, fam. There's literally maps to back up what the elders and what the leaders of Lemba are saying. And not only that, we do have DNA to back it up as well. And not only that, over in the territory of Judah, because remember when we were taking a look at the Lakesh relief, because the Lakesh relief is literally on the other side of the Dead Sea. So you have the Lemba on the right side, then you have the Lakesh relief on the left side of the Dead Sea, and that's where you saw the brothers and sisters with the nappy, woolly hair and the nappy woolly beards. So fam, so that's pretty much it, fam. So hopefully we can do a few more of these. Like I said, I do want to try to get some more information out, just to make sure that everybody in Israel is aware. And like I said, make sure you feel free to make this information your own. Always take the what we give you and take it to the next level, because we got a lot of smart brothers and sisters out there that do way better research than I do. So all right, fam. So thank you for tuning in. Like I said, stay tuned. Most High willing, I will have another video coming out. It's just, like I said, it's just taking a long time. Usually, my videos aren't speedboats; they're battleships. And it takes a long time to turn a battleship. You got to do the research, and we have to vet the information that we put out, just so that we can make sure that it stands up to the scrutiny of the public that's out there. So that's what we're doing. We're just taking our time, because it is a touchy subject, and we do know there's going to be some people that's going to have a problem with it. But if we stick to the facts, they're going to have problems refuting what's put out. All right, and you will be shocked. You will be shocked, and you'll be surprised that people are kind of running their mouth against Israel that shouldn't really be running their mouth against Israel. But anyway, all right, fam. Hey, love you. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the channel. Please continue to do so. And most High willing, we'll have some additional announcements coming for you here soon. All right. Love you, fam. Stay blessed. Shalom.